So welcome, guys. Today's class will be focusing on all the ways that we can strengthen some of our stabilizing core muscles. So if we're ready, we're going to find any easy seat we need. As always, we can adjust and readjust. If we want to put something underneath our hips, we can. Once we're ready, we'll settle into it. We'll let our eyes close. If it's comfortable to let our eyes close. And what we might do for a moment is just notice our heartbeat. Just giving ourselves a moment to notice how it feels. Perhaps how it sounds, if we can hear it. And then, as always, we might just play around with what happens as we breathe. As always, we want to be able to observe and observe without expectation and observe without prediction. So trying our best not to predict the results. What happens as we take our breath in? And what happens as we take our breath out? And maybe that's all we need right now. Just focus in on that heartbeat. Notice what happens as we breathe in. Notice what happens as we breathe out. Now, today might be a day that we are ready to transition away from that and into our 3 parts breathing. So as always, we want to make that time our own. Perhaps what we do first is we allow it to be purely visual. We imagine some type of cylinder, and on the inhale, it fills from the bottom all the way to the top. And on the exhale, it empties out from the top all the way to the bottom. And we might just repeat that. On the inhale, it fills from the bottom all the way to the top. And it exhale, empties out from the top all the way to the bottom. Perhaps we can start to notice where those 1/3 marks are on that cylinder. As we inhale, noticing that 1/3 mark, 2/3, and full. And on the exhale, noticing the 2/3, 1/3, and empty. Again, we might stay here. Each part of this 3 parts breathing can be done on its own and we don't have to add on. Perhaps we are ready to transition to imagining our torso as that cylinder. And maybe on our inhale, it fills us up from the hips to the collarbone. And from the exhale, the collarbone down to the hips. Perhaps here we can notice where those 1/3 marks might be. So maybe on our inhale, we found that 1/3 mark, and the 2/3 mark, and full. And the exhale brings us back to the 2/3, 1/3, and empty. Now maybe that 1/3 mark is somewhere below the ribs, that 2/3 mark somewhere in the center of the ribs. Full is by the collarbones, and again we can repeat that down to the center ribs, to just below the ribs, to the hips. Again, we might stay with this. If it feels good, I invite you to imagine your body expanding and contracting as if you're filling it from the bottom to the top and emptying out from the top to the bottom. So maybe on our next inhale, we let just the belly area expand, then just the ribs, and a little lift in the chest. And on the exhale, we relax the chest, let the ribs draw in. Can we press the belly in? And can we repeat that? The inhale expands the belly, then the ribs, then the chest. And then we relax the chest, let the ribs knit in, press that belly in. Again, we could repeat this movement as we are ready. So mindful that it's okay if this 3 parts breathing feels more like 2 parts, or essentially a wave coming to the top and then coming back down. So Again, it takes time, it takes practice, and there are countless ways we can go about our 3 parts breathing. What we might do today is we might be active on the exhales and relatively passive on the inhales. So on the inhale, just do what we need as we expand up, but then we think mindfully the chest comes down. We knit that rib cage and we press the belly in, but then on the inhale, we relax the belly, bend the ribs, a little lift in the chest, and then we relax the chest down, knit those ribs in, press the belly in. So we might play with that. So we might notice that the really active parts are when we knit that rib in, and we press the belly in, and then we let that relax. As always, this is going to be our time and our practice. I invite you to give this 3 more deep breaths. Now, if we are ready, I invite you to bring your hands together at the heart. We'll pause to set that positive intention. And what we might do is we might try to think of a trait, something that we can remind ourselves of, especially when practice gets frustrating or tiring or just challenging in general. What is that word we can return to? And then we'll take in the inhale that we need. The exhale could rest our hands against our legs. And always mindful the eyes could stay closed for as long or as little as we need. And we might start just with a few gentle seated cat-cow movements. So if it feels good, we could shrug our shoulders back and let our chest lift up. And then we could shrug our shoulders forward and let that upper back lift up. So again, we could repeat that. We could shrug our shoulders back and lift in the chest. And then shrug the shoulders forward and let our upper back lift. Now as we do this, I invite you to use the breathing pattern that works best for you today. Which pose do you want to inhale for? Which pose do you want to exhale for? We usually like to inhale to round our back forward, or inhale to shrug our shoulders back, and then exhale to round forward. But we can do the inverse of that. Maybe we like an exhale to lift the chest, and an inhale to round our shoulders. Again, make that time your own. We're just going to do a few more like this. And then we'll start to wind down as we are ready. So we're going to end on whatever it is that we want to end on today. We're going to bring ourselves back to center when we're ready. Maybe it feels good to shrug out the shoulders. And what we might do before we transition to tables, we might take our hands, we might interlace the fingers, and just do some gentle wrist rolls. So it might look like we're drawing figure 8s. We can also do a little bit of the wave if we want to do the wave. We're just kind of getting our wrists ready for our practice today, because we might be spending a lot of time on the wrists. As always, if the wrists don't agree with anything, if the palm muscles don't agree with anything, we ease out. We either go on our forearms, or we can always place our hands on blocks with the fingers scraping over the edge. So again, make that time your own. So maybe we take a moment just to reverse those figure 8s if we can. Usually one way is a little more smooth than the other, but again, neither right nor wrong. Now as we're ready, we'll find our way into our tabletop position. So we're going to get there however we want to get there. Now once we're here, we're going to come back to those tabletop or cat-cow movements, but now from tabletop. So what we might do is we might drop the belly down, maybe a little tilt of the tailbone up, and then we'll round our back, a little tuck of the tailbone under. And we're just going to repeat this for a few breaths. Now what we might do today is we might play with that same 3 parts breathing, where the inhales were a little bit more on the passive side, and that just means we weren't actively doing anything with them. And the exhales are very active. We're doing a lot of muscle contraction. So what we might do on that next inhale is just think belly drops down, ribs just fan out. But then on our exhale, we'll press the belly in. We'll let our rib cage knit in as we round our back. And then we let that relax with the belly drop, letting the rib cage do what it's going to do. And then we can press the belly in, knit those ribs in. Now we'll just start to go at our own pace now. We're just going to do a few more cat-cows. And we're going to add on to the movement. As always, adding on is up to us, and if adding on ever feels like taking away, we ease away from it. We might start simply by first curling our toes as we come into one pose, and flatten the feet as we come into another. Really doesn't matter which pose we choose for this, just choose one and curl the toes for one, flatten the feet for another. If at any point we find our knees are not agreeing with this is a great time to put a towel or a blanket underneath the knees. Now what we might do is we might play with a little bit of knee lifts, first from curling the toes and then from flat feet. So what we might do is we might curl our toes. We're going to come back to a neutral spine for a moment. And what we might do is we might drop the belly down for cow. But then for cat, we're going to round the back, press through the hands, press through those toes, lift the knees off the mat a little bit, and then come back down nice and controlled, and then we'll drop the belly. Maybe 2 more times like this. We're going to round the back, press that belly in, press the tops of the feet as the knees come up. Nice and mindful, we come down, don't let those knees slam down, and then we'll drop the belly. 1 more time, so we're going to round the back, pressing, coming up, nice and controlled on the way down. That's actually where we build our strength the most, and then we'll drop the belly. Now, if we need to, we'll come back to a more neutral spine. We'll flatten the feet if we need a moment for those wrists. We're going to shake out the wrists a little bit. And now we're going to try that from flat feet. Now, if at any point we get a panging sensation in the front of our thighs, we want to ease back. That means we're asking a very small muscle to do more than it's ready to do right now. Now, if we are ready, we'll do the same thing. We're going to drop our belly down, maybe a deep breath in. On the exhale, we'll round our back, but now we're pressing the tops of the feet into the mat, and we're lifting our knees off the mat. Nice and controlled. Don't let those knees slam to the ground, and then we'll drop the belly. 3 more times if we can. So we're going to round the back, press through the tops of our feet. We're using different muscles to get those knees up now. Nice and controlled. We'll come back down. We could drop the belly. Now 2 more if we can. Nice rounding, nice lifting. And then we'll come back. 1 more. So as we come up, nice and controlled, but even more important, controlled on the way down. We actually strengthen the most on the eccentric contraction of our muscles. Now, once we're ready, we're going to come back to a more neutral spine. And again, we might shake out the arms. We might roll the wrists out. We might do that wrist stretch. Again, listen to the body. Now, if we are ready, we'll just find our way into a child's pose. So we are welcome to adjust and readjust as we're ready. We could shift back, and maybe it feels good to shift back and then down. And we'll take a moment here if we can, whatever child's pose we found. Now, if we found that sequence we just did with our cat-cow and our core work was challenging, I want you to think of the most challenging moment. The moment when you were just done with it and you were ready to hold your breath until it was finished. Remember that sensation. And then without trying to compare it right or wrong, better or worse, just notice how you feel now. And maybe we can give that another full breath in. And another full breath out. Now, if we are ready, we'll come to our down dog. So we're going to come back up to table. We're going to readjust. We're going to try our best to let those fingers spread wide, a little clawing of the mat if we can. We'll curl the toes. We'll shift back and up, and we'll make that upside down letter V. Now, what we do next is really up to us. Listen to your body. Make this time your own. What we might do is we might first transition from down dog to table, and then maybe from down dog to bear crawl. So what we'll do first is we'll go from down dog. We're going to press the belly to the spine, knit those ribs in, little shift into plank, and then nice and mindful, we'll let the knees come down. Now mindful, it's not going to be a perfect table. Our arms are a little in front of us. That's okay. We're going to press through the belly again, lift ourselves up and back to down dog. So we might do that again. So it's kind of coming to plank. We'll let the knees bend. We found table, nice and controlled, no slamming those knees. And then we'll come right back up. Can we do this 1 more time? So we've come to plank, nice and mindful. Those knees have come down, and then we'll come back up. Now we'll take a moment here. If we need a break for our wrists,
Listen to your wrists. Do not do anything that our joints, especially the joints that are closest to the ground, is disagreeing with. Now, if we can, we're going to play with down dog into bear crawl. So for those who have not done a bear crawl before, it's very similar to when we had curled our toes and hovered our knees off the mat. So we do a shift to plank, we'll bend the knees, so it's almost like we're coming to that table, but the knees have hovered, and then we're going to come back, down dog. So as we're ready, we'll do that again. So we come to plank with knees bent, we're going to hover them over the mat if we can, and then we'll come back, down dog. Can we do that 2 more times? So we're just going to shift forward, let the knees hover, and then we'll come back. 1 more time. We'll let ourselves shift forward. Again, press that belly to the spine, knit those ribs in, and then we'll come back. And then we'll find child's pose. We'll let our knees come down. We'll shift back and down. We'll take a moment here. So again, if we need a moment to get the hands off the mat, roll them out, make those figure 8s, do those letter L stretches where one set of fingers points down, the other points up, and we put equal pressure into the hands. We can do that. Make this time your own. But we're going to take some time to rest. So if we would like, we are welcome to find the child's pose of our choosing. And again, can we think about maybe the most challenging part of that sequence? If we didn't find it challenging, it's okay. We're not looking for experiences right now. We're just observing what we had experienced. And again, not trying to compare one is better or worse. Just notice what the sensation was at the most challenging moment. And notice how you feel right now. But just like our heartbeat, try not to predict it. Don't predict what you think you're supposed to feel right now. Just notice what you feel like. And with that in mind, we can come back to one last down dog to eventually bring us into a forward fold. So if we want to play with that transition, we'll come back up, we'll curl the toes, we'll find that down dog, and maybe we walk our feet in or walk our hands towards our feet, or even a hybrid of the two. Again, our time, our practice. It's our first forward fold. What would we like to do? And maybe it just feels good to shake out the head. Maybe it feels good to nod out the head. Now, we are always welcome to play with hand under foot pose, but if we're doing that, we want to remember that the focus is on the wrists, not on the hamstrings. So we bend the knees as much as we can until those hands can very easily find the mat. And then from there, we could slide one hand underneath the foot. Maybe the toes meet the wrists, maybe not. And then we slide the other hand under the foot. Again, our focus here is not on our hamstrings, so keep those knees relatively bent. Now, if we feel like there's a little more for us to go, we are welcome to bend our elbows towards the shins. Again, listen to your body. We're going to try our best to breathe in. Try our best to breathe out. Whatever we found here, maybe another breath in. And out. Now, if our hands are underneath our feet, and slowly but surely, 1 foot at a time, lift up the foot, let the hands slide out. Now we might need a moment, might need to roll out those wrists. We might do a gentle wrist hug where we lightly squeeze underneath the wrist, or very gently, we can kind of do a little squeeze on the wrist itself. Now if we are ready, we'll come up to stand. Now we'll press through the feet. Can we press our belly to the spine too as we come up? Those arms can reach up and overhead. We'll let our hands find their way to the heart. We'll pause here if that's possible. I'm going to try our best to breathe in. And we'll try our best to breathe out. Now, if we are ready, we'll find our way into standing crescent moon. We might prefer our feet where they are. We're also welcome to get them a little wider. We'll let our arms reach up and overhead, and it could be palms together. It could be our hooked thumbs. We could interlace the fingers with the pointers up. We can even do hand behind that left hand. Now, when we are ready, we'll find length. And again, lengthen out that back. Give yourself that extra time to find an extra inch of height. And then we'll go up and over towards the right side. Now, make that time your own. You still want to think height through the back, lengthening out our back. Now maybe it feels good to press that left foot down or even do a shift of the hips towards the left,
But always be mindful that that just changes sensation. It does not necessarily make it better. Notice what we need. We're going to try our best to breathe in. We're going to try our best to breathe out. Now, if we're ready, we'll come back up to center, and we'll try it on the opposite side. We're going to come up, and eventually up and overhead. So again, we still want to think lengthening out through our back. It does us no good to crunch over to the side and kind of let everything collapse down. Lengthen out. Maybe we've pressed that right foot down. Maybe the hips have gone towards the right. You don't have to do that. Notice what you need. Full breath in. Full breath out. One more breath. Now, if we can, we're coming back up. We'll relax those arms down. We'll shrug our shoulders out. Now, what we'll do is we're going to play with our empty coat sleeves. This is also known as knocking on the doors of life if we do have a Qigong practice. Now, especially at home, hopefully we can give ourselves extra freedom to do this, but we want to make sure we don't accidentally bump into anything because we're going to be swinging our arms out. So empty coat sleeves sounds exactly like it sounds. We're going to imagine our arms, our coat sleeves that don't have any arms in them. And so what we'll do is we might let our feet get relatively shoulder width distance. We'll get ready to pivot on the feet, so maybe we're a little light on the heels. Nice relaxed arms, and we'll just start to twist towards the right. Maybe we pivot our opposite foot and a little twist towards the left, and we pivot the right foot. Now those arms are like coat sleeves without hands in them or arms in them, so we're just kind of swinging back and forth. So this is kind of doing double duty here. So what we're doing is we're first and foremost kind of giving a nice little stretch, a little dynamic stretching for all those muscles that we just worked so hard on in our core sequence. And also if our arms are able to lightly hit against our back, we're also giving those muscles a little bit of a massage. So again, just give ourselves a moment here. Now if we find we're getting dizzy, we are welcome to keep our eyes facing forward, just looking at one spot on the floor, just as long as we don't have to crane the neck to look side to side. Now, whatever we need here, we're just going to start to wind down. Now, if we can, nice and slow, we'll come back to center. Maybe we just let those arms hang heavy. It might even just feel good to close the eyes. Again, maybe we just take a moment to think about how it felt in the middle of that particular practice, just swinging the arms around, and how it feels now. Again, we're trying our best not to let this become a setup for noticing what was better or worse. We're just noticing. Maybe we can give that another full breath in, and a full breath out. And if we're ready, we'll find the flow of our choosing. Now that might mean coming back to the top of our mat. We can always inhale our arms up and overhead, and we can exhale into the fold of our choosing. We can inhale, halfway lift, strong back. We exhale, we'll relax the hands, we'll plant our feet back, and notice what you personally want to do. Now it might be our conventional flow of rolling towards plank, a mindful lower, back bend that feels good, and then bringing ourselves back into the resting posture of our choosing. But maybe we really liked those rolls into bear crawl. Maybe not. So we're going to stay here for just a few extra breaths. We will play a little bit more with our core, but we don't have to do it, or we can do it from our tabletop position. Eventually we'll find our way into our warrior one. So if it feels good, maybe we start on that left side. We can lift our left leg up towards the ceiling. Now if we can, we're going to bring our knee into the chest as we come towards plank, but can we pause here? A little squeeze of that knee in. Nice and mindful, we unwind, we'll come back. And we'll do that again, so knee can come into the chest. We'll pause here if we can. Now maybe we squeeze the knee in and press our hands down into the mat. And then we'll unwind from that nice and slow. One more time, knee can come into the chest. Can we pause here? Press those hands in, squeeze the knee in, and then we'll unwind. And now if we're ready, we'll find our way into warrior one. We'll bring our knee to chest, foot towards that right or left hand. We'll come up. We can let the heels spiral down. If we need to readjust our feet, we can. When we're ready, we'll let our arms reach towards the ceiling. And we're going to give ourselves a good amount of time in this pose. So one of the shortcomings of our Vinyasa practice
is sometimes we're moving so much that we don't give ourselves a moment to notice the pose. So we're just going to take a moment in Warrior One. And can we notice our back leg? Can we notice that back calf muscle area? Can we notice our front knee? Can we notice the quad muscle area on that front leg? Maybe we press our belly towards the spine. Does it feel good to knit those ribs in? And make that time your own. Full breath in if possible. Full breath out. Now, if we would like, we're going to find our way into what I like to call the Silver Surfer flow. We're going to inhale and think length through the body. On the exhale, we'll let our arms lightly swing back, and maybe we can tilt forward. We're going to press that belly to the spine, a nice straight back, and nice and mindful, we come right back up. Now, if we're ready, on our exhales, we could swing back and tilt forward. And on our inhale, we can come right back up. So again, we could lightly swing forward, straight back if possible. And then on inhale, we come right back up. One more in full, so we're gonna come back down. And then come right back up. We're gonna pause here if we can. And from here, we'll find our eagle arms. So we're welcome to bring our arms out to the side like goalposts. We'll start with our right arm. So that's the arm opposite of the knee in front of us. We're gonna bring that arm underneath the opposite arm. Now, if it's comfortable, it might be bear hug. Hands are on the shoulders, our bear hug to match our bear crawl. Now, if we prefer, we're welcome to let the palm or back of the hands to meet or the palms to meet. But we check in if we're playing with either of these two and we found all of a sudden we're making letter X's, we're bending our wrists in a weird way, it just doesn't feel good. Back to bear hug. Now, if we're ready, we'll take a deep breath in. Take a deep breath out. Full inhale. Full exhale. One more breath. Now, if we can, we're going to come back to essentially a very neutral spine. We're going to press the belly to the spine, and we're going to start to tilt forward. So we're going to think pressing belly to the spine, a little rounding forward like we're doing cat pose. We'll just give this a moment if we can. We're going to take that breath in, and we're going to take that breath out. One more breath. If we can, we'll come back up. We'll relax the arms. We'll shrug them out. Maybe we take a moment again to notice that back calf muscle area. It's okay if we get a dull ache in the belly of our calf muscle area. Now, if we're ready, we'll come back one more Warrior One. Now we're going to give that one more breath in. One more breath out. And then we'll do the movement of our choosing. So that could mean hands have come down. We can step that front foot back. And again, notice what we personally need. Do we like a conventional flow, or do we like to roll to plank, hang out in plank for a bit, come back, or roll to plank, turn it into what's really more of a stationary bear crawl than a bear crawl itself. It's the bear crawl without a crawl, and then we'll come back. Again, make that time your own. What do you want to do right now? We're going to try our best to breathe in. We're going to try our best to breathe out. Now make sure you give yourself at least 1 or 2 breaths in something resting, maybe even more than that, but bare minimum 1 or 2 breaths in a pose where we feel like we don't have to try to be in it. Maybe that's down dog, or maybe that's child's pose. Now, if we are ready, we'll try on the opposite side. So we're going to come back to that core work if it worked for us. Now we'll take our opposite leg. So if we started on the left leg, now we'll lift up our right leg. And if we're ready, we'll do knee to chest as we come towards plank. A little squeeze of that knee in. Can you hold this? And then nice and mindful, we come back. Again, nice and slow, we're coming in. Maybe we squeeze the knee in. Maybe we press those hands down. And then we unwind one last time if that's possible. We'll bring that knee in as we come to plank. Can we squeeze? Can we press? And then we'll unwind. And then if we're ready, we'll find our way into our Warrior One. We can Put the knee to the chest, foot towards that front leg or front foot. We come up, we readjust, we come into the pose. And we'll take a few breaths here. Again, can we take a moment to notice? Can we notice that back leg area? Can we notice our front leg area? Now we can remind ourselves these poses can be challenging, but we don't want these poses to be painful. I think that's one of the hardest things we can discern or learn to discern in our practice. That discomfort from challenge, can I recognize that, not confuse it with pain, and then likewise not confuse pain with a discomfort of challenge. So we're going to try our best to breathe in. Try our best to breathe out. Now, if we are ready, we're going to find that flow. Now we're going to think, inhale nice and tall. On the exhale, we'll let our arms lightly swing back and we'll tilt forward. And then on our inhale, we'll come right back up. Nice warrior one. And when we're ready, we'll let our arms swing back. Press that belly in. And on the inhale, we'll come right back up. So just one more time in full. We're going to swing forward. We're going to bring ourselves back up. Pausing here if we can. And then we'll find our way into our eagle arms. We're going to let our elbows bend, and now it's that opposite arm. So if our right knee is in front, that's our left elbow going underneath right. Now again, it might be bear hug for the bear crawl. If we can comfortably rotate the shoulder or rotate through the shoulders so the backs of the hands can meet or the palms meet, wonderful. Again, if we find we immediately start making some interesting shapes with the arms, just come back to the bear hug. Bear hug gives a lot of the same qualities as eagle arms. Now, if it's possible, we'll try our best to breathe in. We'll try our best to breathe out. We could play with a little lift in the chest if we want to, but we don't have to. Full breath in. Full breath out. Now, if we would like, we'll let the back go back to something neutral. We're going to press that belly to the spine, and we're going to think seated cat pose. We're going to shrug our shoulders forward, let our upper back lift up towards the ceiling. Pausing here if we can. Full breath in. Full breath out. One more breath. Pressing through those feet. We're going to come back up, but we're going to find our way back to warrior one. Again, notice when we want to kind of hop out of a pose, and not hop out of the pose because it is painful, but just because we're done with it. Notice that sensation if we can. Full breath in, full breath out, and then we'll find the flow of our choosing. So we're welcome to bring the hands down, or we're welcome to step back. Now we're welcome to do whatever we need here. Do we like that bear crawl without the crawl, and then come back? Do we like finding our way into a conventional flow, that plank, that lower, that back bend? What do we personally need right now? Notice what you want. Again, we're going to try our best to give ourselves, this time maybe 2 or 3 breaths in something that is relatively resting. Now, if we are ready, we'll find our way into our forward fold. Now, we get there by stepping, walking. If we have a hopping practice, we want to think press through the hands, press that belly in. We lift through the hips. Feet go wherever they're going to go. We try not to think about trying to get them to the hands. That's a good way to break your toes. Now, when we're ready, we'll find our halfway lift, strong back. On the exhale, we'll lower down. On the inhale, we'll come all the way back up. On the exhale, our hands can find our heart. Now, can we come back to that heartbeat again? Now, I invite you to close the eyes if they're not closed already. And I want you to notice that heartbeat. Again, we might even remind ourselves that our heart beats harder and faster as a way to try to help us out. When we do a physically taxing activity, our heartbeat gets a little bit harder, a little bit faster,
Trying to get blood to the various parts of our body a little bit quicker, get that oxygen to the muscles. We might even take a moment to remind ourselves that our body is doing the best it can to help us out. And we might take a moment to thank it for doing its best to help us out, even if it sometimes feels a little short-sighted or misguided. And again, without trying to predict anything, without trying to look for a specific experience, I invite you to notice what happens to that heartbeat as we breathe in, as we breathe out. Now, as we're ready, we can relax the arms. We're welcome to open the eyes. And we're going to play with our eagle pose. So eagle pose has the option of being a balancing pose, but we don't have to do that. Now we're going to come back to our eagle arms first. We're going to bring our elbows out to the side like goalposts. And maybe we start with that left arm underneath right again. So we have a lot of options. So we can do our bear hug. We can do backs of the palms meeting. The arms can mindfully swivel around and the palms meet. Another option is to completely uncross it, which will give us some of the same benefits as our eagle pose. So again, make that time your own. What version do you need? Now we might start with chair. We might just make sure the toes are relatively straight ahead. We'll shift back and down. We're going to try our best to make sure the knees are going in the same direction as those toes. This could be our pose. Now, if we want to add on the balancing aspect, we might put a little more weight into that right foot. Really press that right foot down. Set up that foundation. And then we'll cross left over right. We'll pause here if we can. So we're just trying our best to notice, trying our best to breathe in, trying our best to breathe out. Now we are welcome to add on. Maybe that means we're lifting up the foot. Maybe the foot mindfully wraps behind the opposite leg. Make that time your own though. This is our time, our practice. Full breath in. Full breath out. So what happens to this pose if we play with pressing the belly in, knitting the ribs towards center? Notice that pose. Deep inhale. Deep exhale. And make that time your own. One more breath. Now if we're ready, we mindfully come out. And as I always like to say, mindful and graceful are two separate terms. Now we might shake out the arms, we might shake out the legs. I always love to notice how that right leg feels, compare it with the left leg. Again, neither is better nor worse. They went through different experiences and so they have different sensations right now. And then if we're ready, we're going to try it on the opposite side. We're going to bring our elbows out to the side. Again, right's going underneath left and we choose our own adventure. Is it bear hug? Backs of the hands, palms, uncrossed eagle. Again, what do we personally need? Again, back to that chair pose if we can. This alone is a challenge. We don't have to go further. Now, if we'd like, we could put a little weight into that left foot. Really set up that foundation. Feel that left foot on your mat. And then we'll cross right over left. Now, we might stay here. Maybe the foot is hovered. Maybe it's lifted up already. Maybe not. Maybe the foot wraps behind the opposite calf muscle. Maybe not. Again, make this pose your own. Technically, I can wrap my foot behind my calf muscle, but it's not really constructive for me to be there. I feel pressure in my knees, so I like to keep that unwrapped. Make it your own. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. Full breath in. Full breath out. I know it's a challenge, but can we give it 2 more breaths? And then as mindfully as we can, we'll come out, we'll unwind. Again, maybe we shake out the legs, maybe notice left leg versus right leg. Now if we can, we'll come back to our mountain pose. We can always let our palms rotate forward or away. We might close our eyes. And we'll take a moment. Just take that moment to notice your inhale. And that moment to notice your exhale. Notice your heartbeat again. That heart beating for you to help you out. The body is going through challenge and it's trying to respond accordingly. Maybe even one last thank you to our body. We don't really thank our bodies enough. We notice when it falls short of our expectations or when the way it helps us feels misguided.
Just want to give ourselves a moment here. Just be grateful for the system that we have, the immune system, the muscular system, the respiratory system. Just doing its best to help us out. Now, when we are ready, we'll find our flow back to the resting pose of our choosing. Again, make that time your own. On our next inhale, maybe the arms reach up and overhead. On the exhale, maybe a forward fold. We might inhale for that halfway lift, strong back, hands go where they're gonna go. On the exhale, we bring them down, we'll plant the hands, we step back, we do the movement of our choosing. It might be straight back to a child's pose or down dog. It might be movement from table pose. Again, make this time our own. It might even be come to table and play with those lifting knees, whether it's from curled toes or flat feet. Make it your own. I'm gonna try our best to breathe in. I'm going to try our best to breathe out. Now we're going to try to give this 3 or 4 deep breaths in something relatively resting. So if at any point, if we're in down dog and it becomes a challenge pose, not a resting pose, listen to your body, honor it, come into a different pose. Now, when we are ready, we'll find our way into a seated position. So again, make that time your own. That might mean just the knees have come down, we've shifted back, maybe we swing our legs around. It's really up to us. And maybe we take a moment and extend our legs for a moment. We might shake the legs out, we might move our feet a little side to side. So if we're ready, we'll find the bound angle of our choosing. And now we're welcome to let the knees bend, and the feet can meet and the knees go out to the side. Again, checking in. This is a great time to notice if we need support for the knees. If we have blocks or even things like sturdy boxes that we fill up, we can always place those underneath our knees. Another great option is very thick pillows or couch cushions. Again, make that time your own. We might find, I want to stay upright in this pose. I want to focus on pressing my belly to the spine, letting that rib cage knit in a little bit. Get tall through the back. This is my pose today. We might prefer to do the variation that gives us a light shoulder stretch, where we place the hands behind us, we press through the belly, and we lift through the chest. Now we might prefer to lean forward. And if that's the case, we lean forward. Again, make this time your own. There's a reason why I'm kind of painstakingly going through all the different things we can do right now. Make sure this practice is what you need it to be, not what you think you're supposed to be doing. Now, whatever we found, can we give this 3 more deep breaths? If we are ready, we are welcome to meet in a more neutral spine again. We can let our knees come up, we can straighten them out for a moment, we might shake them out a little bit, we might move our feet a little side to side. So if we're ready, we'll find our way into the twist of our choosing. Again, listen to your body. We're going to bring in that right knee, I'm going to cross it over the straight leg. Now the straight leg might stay straight. We could bend it in where the heel relatively meets the hip, but we do that check-in. So even if we always do this pose, I want you to do that check-in. How's my knee? Can I have both hips on the ground? Did my low back lock up on me today? Again, check in, and if any of those answers are in the negative, we want to straighten that leg out again. And we might even just stay here for a moment. This is almost like a shoelace pose. And we might just get tall through the body. Again, we don't even have to twist if twisting doesn't feel good. If we would like to add in a twist, we're going to think lengthen out through your back, deep breath in. On the exhale, we're going to twist through the ribs. Maybe we are hands-free for a moment. Can we knit those ribs in, press the belly to the spine, and then we'll let our arms go wherever they need to go. Now we're always welcome to add in light tractioning, which might feel like hugging the knee in, or a very gentle press of that forearm against the thigh, or the upper arm against the thigh. But again, if we can't tell the difference between gentle tractioning and trying to crank the twist into place,
We want to ease back, avoid that temptation. Now we're going to try our best to breathe in. Try our best to breathe out. One more breath. Now, if we'd like, we'll find our counter twist. We're just going to come back to center, twist in the opposite direction. Now, do we like to be upright for this pose? Do we like to plant one or two hands down? Do we like to reach out one hand like we're trying to shake someone's hand or point out the floor? Do we like that tilting cat where one half of that back is reaching up to the ceiling? Whatever we found, another full breath in. Another full breath out. And then if we can, we're going to come back to center. Can we keep our legs where they are? We'll take that right hand to the ground next to us. Left arm could lift up. Maybe it's up and overhead. Find the side bend of your choosing. Now that might mean we walk out that right hand or put a little bend in the elbow. Can we keep our hips anchored down? Just notice how this pose feels. This might be a different variation than the one we do when we're usually cross-legged, or at least a different type of crossed legs. I'm going to try our best to breathe in. And we'll try our best to breathe out. Now, if we can come back up. We'll relax the arms down. We're going to try it in the opposite direction. So if you know the pivot into the opposite side, that ninja swirl as I like to call it, you're welcome to do that. For today's class at least, I won't be demoing that, but stay tuned. We might play with that in a later class. So if we're ready, if we'd like, we could always let our weight shift back, uncross the legs. We might shake them out. We might move our feet. We're going to try it in the opposite direction. So if our legs are uncrossed right now, we're going to bring in that left knee. Cross it over the right. Maybe we bent in that left leg or right leg, maybe not, but we do that same checking in. How's my knee? Hips are on the ground. Low back's okay with this. And we might even just pause and notice how this feels. And again, if we'd like, we might add in that twist. So maybe we think tall through the body, get a little taller through that spine. Take a deep breath in. On the exhale, we'll twist towards that left side. Maybe we're hands free. Knit those ribs in. Press through the belly. Maybe we're ready to place our hands wherever we want to place our hands. So again, we're welcome to add in light tractioning. And that's just gentle, gentle pressure. If we've ever played with tractioning devices, you think about how it's just this very gentle tug through the limbs. It's nothing crazy. Nothing so intense that we can feel ourselves straining. We're just changing the experience. We're changing the angle of stretch. So we're going to try our best to breathe in. Try our best to breathe out. Maybe one more full breath here. Whatever version we found, we'll counter twist. We'll come back to center. We'll twist in the opposite direction. Now we're welcome to be tall in that twist. We're welcome to plant a hand down, two hands, reach out like we want to shake someone's hand or point out the ground. What do we need here today? Do we like that side tilting cat where we just round that right or left side up to the ceiling? And then when we're ready, we'll come back and we'll take our left hand, we'll bring it down to the ground next to us. We'll lift up that right arm and we can reach up and overhead. Get just a little side bend here, that's all we're doing. One more breath. Now if we're ready, we'll come back up, we'll relax the arms. We'll uncross our legs. Now again, we could shake them out a little bit. We can move our feet a little bit. And then if we are ready, we'll come down onto our back. So whatever way we want to do, if we want to come down in boat pose, we can. If we want to walk our hands down, we can. If we like that Pilates move where we come to essentially our boat pose, we extend the legs out, we lower just the lower back, then the knees, then the head. More than welcome to. Again, make that your own. But once we're on the ground, I invite you to bend the knees and do any movement we need here. Now, maybe it just feels good to move the knees side to side. Maybe we want to hug the knees and rock a little bit side to side. Again, make that time your own. Now, if it feels good, we'll find our way into whatever twist of our choosing towards the right. And make that time your own. Maybe we like to plant the feet down, really keep the knees glued to the mat, and just let the knees knock over a little bit. Maybe it's a little more twist intensive today. Maybe we shift the hips towards the left, twist over towards the right, whether we like to stagger out the knees, whether it's one way or the opposite way, or stack the knees. And do we want our arms out? And if so, how do we want our arms out? Do we want them out like a letter T? Do we like cactus arms with the elbows bent? And again, painstakingly going through all the different ways we can be in a twist right now to remind ourselves this is our time. This is not about me barking orders and you following suit. This is about finding just safe parameters for us to do what we need. And with that, we might find another deep breath in and a deep breath out. One more breath. Now, whatever we found on one side, we're welcome to come back to center or welcome to readjust for as long as we need to. And we'll eventually find it in the opposite direction. Again, what do we personally need out of this right now? And once we are there, we're just going to try our best to breathe in and breathe out. Now, can we give this a handful more breaths? One more breath. Now, when we are ready, we're welcome to come back up. We can plant the feet down. We can move in whatever way feels good to move. Now, what we might do is we might play with our pyramid legs. So we might let our knees knock into each other and we'll let our feet walk away from each other. And we'll take a few moments here. Now, if we can, we'll relax our arms either by our sides or maybe we even relax them on the belly. Another option is to cup the hands over the eyes. If that feels better, maybe a little bit more of a darkened sensation kind of helps everything calm and slow down. And I invite you now to essentially come back to our 3 parts breathing, but maybe we just focus on one part. We'll focus on the belly expanding. So maybe on an inhale, we let our belly expand as much as it can. We might notice the ribs start to follow suit. That's okay. On the exhale, we'll relax it back. So again, the inhale, expanding the belly. The exhale, relaxing it. And we might like to have our hands on our belly just to feel that rise and that fall. Again, wherever we need our hands to be right now. Maybe they're over the eyes, maybe not. Maybe they're even on the heart. So again, we're trying our best to think inflate through the belly. And then let gravity lower that belly back down. So now we're being a little more active on the inhale part. The inhale is where we're doing all the work. The exhale just happens. So I invite you to stay here for as long as you need. Today might even be a day that we're combining belly breath with sighs. So we take that deep belly breath in, and then we sigh it out. So again, maybe just a deep belly breath in, and we sigh it out. Another option is to do belly breath with lion's breath. So what we do with that is we inhale, inflate the belly. The exhale, we stick out the tongue and just make a nice loud exhale. Again, we're in the privacy of our own home. Do whatever you personally need here. No worries about embarrassing yourself. We're just taking that deep breath in and the exhale of our choosing. And we might even stay here for the rest of our practice. As always, this is going to be our time. If there's other things we would like to do right now, if there's other poses we want to do, or just a different version of Shavasana that we would want to come into, we can do that. We're going to come into whatever we personally need right now. We're going to wind down the practice in the way we personally want to wind down our practice. I will eventually be playing our singing bowls. One of them wanted to have a little bit of a preview sound there. So I'll do this for just a couple of minutes. Now, if we need a longer Shavasana than that, please pause the video, set a timer on your phone, and give yourself that time. After a few minutes, I will let the singing bowls fade into silence, and then I will bring us back to our easy seat. And what we do between now and then is always entirely within our power. You're welcome to take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Now we can return movement as movement feels right. Now it might feel good to stretch out through the fingers and toes and then move a little bit through our hands and feet. We might stretch our arms up and overhead, doing that full body stretch. If we're still in pyramid legs, maybe we're moving the knees around a little bit. And eventually we'll build up enough movement that we find our way back into our easy seat. And once we are there, we have the option of letting our eyes be closed for just a little while longer. When we are ready, we'll let our hands come together at the heart. And if we can, for today's moment of gratitude, can we come back to that intention, that word that we could repeat to ourselves when things get challenging? Is there anything involving that word that we are grateful for? And then whatever meaning of namaste resonates, and perhaps today it is the strength and resilience within me recognizes and honors the strength and resilience within you. I thank you for your time, and I thank you for your practice. Namaste.